Hey everyone, Ryan here at Plague Scythe Studios. Welcome back to another episode of Shit You Need. Today's episode revolves around mixing and mastering your own recordings at home, specifically using equipment that you probably already have, and just leveraging it to tame the entire audible frequency spectrum to make it work better for you and your ears, your gear, and make your recording sound better in the end of it. We even have a freebie in this collection today, unlike pretty much any other episode of Shit You Need, so no excuse not to at least grab one of these. Before getting to the actual content, I know someone's going to ask about the shirt. A good friend of mine actually made this for me. It's a baseball style tee. Really dig it. I think it looks awesome. But I know a couple people have asked if I would ever do merchandise. I think someone with less than 10,000 subscribers is kind of a weird thing to do. But if you are interested, we are going to be making a few short runs of plain black tees with kind of white silver font, and maybe even a couple like this. This will probably be a more special thing. So if you are interested, please let me know down in the comments, and we may or may not make a full run. But if you absolutely have to have a shirt with Plague Scythe Studios Gear Tech Metal on it, send me an email at plaguescythestudios@gmail.com with your shirt size and address and all that, and we'll work out cost and whatnot. This is not a money-making endeavor. You know, we might, both of us, end up with some beer money at the end of the day out of this, but margins are going to be super low. We're just doing this because it's fun, and he's got the materials for it. So yeah, if you're interested, let me know. Again, plain blacks will be pretty easy to get. These, if you really want this specifically, it'll be might take a little longer. I wear a medium for reference, so fits pretty well, I think. So with that out of the way, let's actually start the video. We will begin with the one product that is in the physical realm. The rest of them reside in software land. And this is an isolation pad. You might have seen me use these for quite a few months now, maybe almost a year. I don't even know how long I've had them. But pretty simple principle, simple product. You probably have heard them or even seen them on several speakers before. Basically what this does is, as the name suggests, tries to isolate what's coming out of the speakers from whatever it's setting on in the rest of the room by extension. Because before I had these, especially before this desk, you could feel every rumble, almost every frequency below, the audible, like the 2000 hertz range come through the table they were sitting on. And that just makes it awful. You get so much resonance, so much feedback that you can't trust whatever you're making. So that's why a lot of times you see speakers on independent stands, all that good stuff. As with my situation here, and as it has been for the past two places I've lived, space is definitely not on my side, so this is the best I'm going to be able to do. And you might be in a similar scenario. If you've got a home studio tucked away in a corner somewhere, probably fighting the same sort of thing I am, where you can't crank up the bass too high, or else you do get a lot of resonance and feedback. So this tries to combat that. These are fairly affordable. I want to say in the $15 region on Amazon. They've got a couple extensions that you can kind of stack up or make do for different size speakers. These work really well. I'll put the specific models for these. I use M-Audio BX5s. One good thing about these speakers, they do have an attenuation, kind of a roll off for the bass frequencies. So when I combine that with the isolation pads, I get something that is very flat, something that I can actually trust when mixing, although they are not the bass heaviest speakers. When they're in this kind of environment, it's a little much. Whatever route you end up choosing, I highly recommend you get some sort of apparatus to separate the speakers and the surface they're sitting on, because, well, you might be in a similar situation to me where you can't just put egg crate on every wall and ceiling in your recording environment, and you probably have semi-affordable speakers as well. Once you get into some of the larger drivers, this becomes a bit less of a problem because you probably need something bigger to set them on anyway. But especially with stuff in this price range, isolation pads can turn them from meh and not really trustworthy to something that's actually workable, so highly recommended there. With that said, there are plenty of times you simply cannot play or record or mix out loud through speakers without disturbing other people, whether you live in a school dorm or a noisy apartment like I did, or you're working on stuff later at night and don't want to wake the wife and kids up. There's just plenty of times that you need to get the full volume sound to, get your work done correctly, but can't disturb other people. So of course you're going to resort to headphones. And if you spend a decent amount of money on headphones, I'd say roughly half the cost of what your 2 speakers run. These are HD 598Cs. I think they retail now around $200, something like that. You can get some fairly trustworthy, good sounding recordings and playback through headphones. The problem is, even between 2 identical or so-called identical pair of headphones, there's some error, there's some manufacturing tolerancing going on, and there's some dips, some troughs, some inaccuracies in the frequency response. And that's where our software plugin comes in with Sonarworks Reference 4. So I was mostly familiar with Sonarworks Reference 3 and 4, and I've heard of several professionals using this exact software to tune their speakers to the room, because when I thought of Sonarworks, I always thought of like the little ads I'd see on Sweetwater or in their magazines where you see like, I don't know, it was a $300, $400 package where you get software like this as well as a reference microphone, where basically you take it around the room and it would tell you, okay, around here you're getting too much bass response, around here you're getting a dip in the mids or whatever, and it would calculate a custom curve for both speakers, and that way you get the most neutral response that you can in your room environment. Super cool idea. For me, that's completely impractical because, like I said, there's a good part of the time I simply can't use my monitors. I'm in an environment that it's not that good anyway, so spending an extra, well, about what each speaker costs doesn't really make sense for me. But that's kind of where my knowledge base of Sonarworks ended, and I was under the impression that was all they worked in. Turns out they have a headphone plugin as well for $100. Not only a plugin, but system-wide, meaning that you can watch your YouTube videos, listen to regular music, watch movies with your headphones basically fixed for you, and I'll show you what that means. So for my specific pair of cans, the frequency response looks something like this. And you can guarantee if you only spent $30 to $50 on a pair of even over-ear headphones, or especially in-ears, the response is not going to look anywhere as close as that is. We're only off by about 3-ish decibels on the high end and about 5 on the low end, which isn't too bad. It's not good for studio quality, but it's all right, and it's why I've been able to get decent tones and work on all my tone matches and mixes and stuff through headphones for the most part. But you engage this little magical button and your frequency response is almost perfectly flat, meaning that we get just a little bump around the 40 hertz, some attenuation below 20, who cares, and after that it's basically perfect. This has a 0 latency mode, which is really nice for mastering, mixing real time, or especially tracking. But of course you can enable a low latency mode that makes sure there's no phase shifts. So that's like what you want to engage when you're doing your final tweaks. But for tracking, you get absolutely no additional latency, which is super cool. And then I don't use these other features as much in the DAW, but for audio, system-wide audio playback, you actually got some really other cool features like the bass boost and tilt. So you can, tilt the treble bass anyway, and really useful for video games, that sort of stuff. And another cool thing is you can target specific curves. So this includes 2, one of which is the B&K 1974 speaker target. So this is kind of like the golden mark for home hi-fi sounds, and it does sound really good. I have this on a lot of the times when just listening to music, playing games, that sort of stuff. Also has the home cinema curve. I definitely recommend trying that one out when watching stuff like movie trailers. It has that signature roll-off sound you hear in a good movie theater. Really like that one. But most of the time I rock completely flat, because after turning it on, it's like listening to a brand new pair of headphones. It's like HD sound. It's crazy how much just a few decibels on each peak and trough really helps. And they have just an insane amount of profiles for a specific pair of headphones. So they got the regular 598s, they got the 598Cs, all sorts from Sony, Sennheiser, Shure, Pioneer. We got some Fostex in there, Barodynamic, Behringer, Audio-Technica, AKG. They probably have your headphones in here. So I say no matter what you spent, $100 is absolutely worth the price to have, sure footing on your sound. to be able to record and mix and play back audio tracks and be 100% confident that what you're hearing is going to be translated well to your audience is beyond valuable. And what's really cool about this specific software is that they include this average, right? So this says HD 598C's average, and that's just applied to, you know, they've done a statistical analysis and most of them fall in that region. However, say you've got like, I don't know, $1,000 pair of headphones and you're willing to splurge just a little bit more, you can actually send your specific headphones into Sonarworks and they will profile each side, so you'll get an independent profile for each one, and send them back to you with a custom curve, and it will be even closer than this. And you know, that would be super cool for someone who's traveling, who's working on really high budget material and needs that sort of confidence and that sort of, you know, reference to be able to work. For me, this is more than enough for, you know, 99% of what I do. So I'm very pleased with it. And although I've not been using it all that long, Reference 4 Headphones Edition is definitely a product I can recommend to practically anyone working on their own material through headphones. It is an absolute blast to use and it just sounds great. And of course, the confidence factor makes every penny worth it to me. So let's round off with our final plugin here. This is the freebie. This is TDR Nova. So most of you have probably heard the term multi-band compression, and that differs quite a bit from regular compression where you just run the entire waveform and, you know, you make the peaks and troughs a little closer to each other depending on some ratio, attack time, and all that good stuff we're not going to get into a lot of detail about. But TDR Nova is a multi-band compressor, and of course it's, like I said, it's free, which again, there's no excuse you shouldn't download this thing if you don't have one. The reason I've been using this product for the whatever 2-3 years it's been out that I've known about it is because a lot of the lower end versions of audio workstation programs like Cubase don't actually include a built-in multi-band compressor, which is weird to me considering they have other mastering tools like maximizers and limiters and whatever. So I needed a multi-band compressor. I needed one that was easy and that you know, just did what I wanted to do and got the hell out of the way when I didn't need it, because some of them can get a little overbearing. But this one, not the case. Really like using it. It's kind of an EQ multi-band compressor in one, which is really cool because sometimes maybe you want to raise or lower the overall level, but then you just want to touch up the threshold a little bit, or vice versa. You can do that with this. It includes 4 separate bands. There's your gain control for just straight EQ, and there is threshold for the compression. Of course, you can change the ratio, the attack time, release time, the amount of dry mix that bleeds through, which is super handy, especially if you're like, say you use quad track guitars and you want to put this over a master bus. You want a lot of those dynamics to come out in the recording, but you still want to tame maybe the low end, some of the, you know, ice pick frequencies. This is where multi-band compression can really save your ass, aside from using it, you know, in the overall mix where, you know, you want the bass guitar and kick drum not to be too powerful and sit just right. So I use this again across guitar chains, across the final mix, sometimes of bass guitar to tame the low end, and it's just a super valuable plugin for no money. Absolutely worth every penny you don't pay for it. Now, I've used a number of multi-band compressors over the past couple of years, both premium and free. There's a couple out there that maybe include another band or two and maybe look a little less intimidating the first time you lay eyes on it, but this one is just so easy to use once you spend 10 minutes with it. It has a really nice analyzer so you can tell exactly what you're doing to the frequency spectrum. You can solo each band and it gets out of your way when you don't need it. Every halfway finished recording you've heard from me uses this plugin somewhere, guarantee. There's, I don't use compression on like raw guitar tracks for shootouts or comparisons, that sort of stuff, but any other time, that's in there because I love it and trust it that much. So there you go. There's your one free thing out of the past, 12 products we looked at. So definitely grab that one. No matter if you're not interested in the other ones, definitely go check that one out. Link in the description. So that'll do it for today's Shit You Need. Hope you enjoyed that. Got some entertainment and some value out of that one. If you have any questions, comments, leave them below as always. And thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.